Chandia Bond was born in Dallas, Texas. And I went down and helped out for a week. When I first got there and she went to give her a bath, she would just scream. And I said, she's cold. So I said, let's take her in the bathroom where it's warm. So we got her in there where it was warm, and they had this gaudy paper on, because it was a rental. And she would look at that paper, and then she was warm. She just settled right down. So that was her. And then when Jeremy was born, we were had some things planned, but she wouldn't come. He wouldn't come. Of course, I didn't know it was a he at that time. And anyway, I just said, put me on a plane. I'm going to Dallas, and they're going to have that baby while I'm down there. And at that time, we had a big storm that came in the day I was flying out. And Bill was out on the runway thinking, get off the ground, because they said there was a tornado coming through Manitou. And our plane got up and we got gone, and that tornado did touch down. It did some damage, but nobody was hurt, I don't think, that I remember. So I got down there, and first day we bought a baby book and got all ready. And that night she went to the hospital and had that baby. And it was Jeremy James.
I was still working because I was in a quasi-administration role, and I had to work another week or 10 days. And so then I drove down as soon as I
A week later.
could get away.
Mm-hmm. Bill, when he got there, he'd lost so much weight, I couldn't believe it. And I said, what have you been eating? Hot dogs. That's all he fixed while I was gone. I suppose he ate cereal for breakfast, but hot dogs. But it sure took the weight off of him when he got there. But I was so glad to see him, because that weather did not agree with me at all down there. It just was something about it. It was too hot at that time of the year, and it was June, but it was very, very warm at that time. But I spent a week with him and taking care of the house and Patty, and she was doing fine, and watching Miss Chanda. And Miss Chanda was very jealous, and we weren't watching her one day, and all at once we heard Jeremy just scream, and we went in, and his head had come out of the crib. She'd bit him. So we learned really quick, keep the door shut, so she can't get to him, and she was disciplined very gently, you can't bite your new brother, so. But it was a fun time. We were all excited to have grandchildren.
Parker is 18. He was born September the 28th in 1995, which was exactly to the day 10 years after his parents were married. And so we had a tremendous advantage with him that we didn't have with the other two kids. We were retired, and so we could do whatever we wanted to do, and we really, really took advantage of that. One of the great things that we got to do is when he was born, we were there within hours, and I got to hold him right away, and we really had a great time with him, and we always appreciate that. He has always been very, very small for his age, but he is pretty good in sports. He plays baseball, basketball, and his main sport is golf. And he's 18 now, and will be graduating from high school, and will be going probably to somewhere in Texas for college. One thing that we are so proud of him, he's always been in a Christian school, never been out of that kind of a situation. And I asked him one day, I said, Parker, how are you going to choose your college? And he said, well, I want it to be international business. That's one thing that I really like, and I would really like to find a college where I can go to devotions in the mornings. And that was the right thing for him to say for me, because I really, really appreciate that. And the sports, he never gave a lot of attention to sports. He never spent a lot of time on it. He has some natural talent, and he is 6'6" and very, very slender, and he is a very good golfer. And that's really the sport that he has really challenged with him. And so and I told him, I said, football, baseball, basketball, that's fine, but golf you can do the rest of your life, and you can be a good example. And he is a very good example on the golf course. When he makes a bad shot, he just smiles and he encourages the other people, even though he's in competition with them. And I think that a lot of that is the Christian values that he's been raised with.
When he was born, we were able to go up and take care of him because Karen's mother was not able to come and be with her. So she asked me if I would come up and help. And we were delighted. So the bond was formed right there. And we were able to keep him many, many times, sometimes up there and sometimes right here. They would bring him along with the dog and leave. And he never, ever cried for him or asked for him. He was just as happy as he could be, whether he was with us or with them. So that was really wonderful. And we were so glad we were retired and we were able to do all these things with him. And we've really enjoyed our trips to Branson with him, because they see that he gets to Branson for his camp, and then we go down and for the closing ceremonies, and then we stay as many days as we can with him, depending on his schedule now. When he was little, we were able to stay a week. Now we can't quite stay. Now we thought this year was going to be it, that there would be no more Camp Kanakuk, because he was turning 18. But just as camp ended, he was selected to be chief of the Cherokee tribe for next year, and he is elated. So he will be going back one more time and acting as chief for one of the segments that they have down there. And we're really looking forward to it, because now we can go down and get all the pictures and see him come riding on his horse up for the closing ceremonies. It's going to be a wonderful time. On April 15th, 1980, Jim was able to move his family from Dallas to Denver to a new job. Jeremy was only 10 months old at that time, Chanda 2.5. So that enabled us to be able to be closer to them and do things, and for them to form a big bond with us. We volunteered to keep the kids 2 weeks every summer while they were growing. And when that time came for Jeremy, he was about 5 years old, we started to do mystery trips. And what we do, Bill and I would decide where we're going. I'd write it out on a piece of paper, and Patty would get their suitcases ready, but she didn't know where we were going either. So we would pick up the kids, hand her the note, and away we'd go. So then she could follow us wherever it was. And that continued until Chanda was a senior in college. We traveled every summer together on mystery trips, and they loved it. They didn't know where we were going, but that was wonderful to them, because they just had such a good time, no matter where it was.
Yeah, we didn't do mystery trips with Parker because he was really young when we started taking him, and we really didn't plan to start taking him on a trip until he was 6 or 7, and we were up at Mickey and Karen's, his parents, one day, and I made the comment, I said, I'll sure be glad when Parker gets 6 or 7 years old so we can start taking him on a trip. And Mickey, our son, looked at me and he said, why do you have to wait? So I said, well, I guess we don't, and we'd like to go to Branson. He said, take him. And so we did, but we just went 1 week with him, and that changed. Sometimes we were down there 3-4 weeks, and sometimes, but never less than 2 now.
We have 5 great grandchildren: Karis Rochelle, Kaylee Alexa, Cammie Yvonne, Weston Bradley, and Susanna Rose. Chanda and Brad were married in 1998, I believe it was, in May, and we got our first great-grandchildren in 2002. That was Karis Rochelle. And Karis is a wonderful, loving child. She looks forward to our visits. We can probably depend that she's going to be out there waiting for us to come if it isn't too cold. And always glad to see us with hugs. And she loves to bake. So I have baked cakes for many, many, many years, but my hands were getting so that it's really difficult for me. So I gave her all my pans and all my cake supplies and paid for her to have some lessons in baking cakes because she likes this so much. So I'm really proud of her for that because she's inheriting that from me.
Kaylee is Chanda and Brad's second daughter. She's 9 years old and just a real sweetheart. She is a lot different than her other 2 sisters. She's right in the middle. She's very slender, petite, very reserved, very affectionate, and the other 2 girls are just about the opposite, except they're loving too, but she kind of clings, or always has, more or less to me. And when she was a small baby, she cried quite a bit, and we went to restaurants with them some, and she'd start crying, and I could pick her up and just take her outside and hold her and talk to her and rub her head and everything, and she'd settle right down and go to sleep.
Cammie Yvonne is 9 years old. She is very independent, likes to be in charge, likes to be the boss, run the show, and she loves to play with her cousins. And she has several cousins that they are together with quite a bit. So she's quite a bit different than the others. She's not a hugger at all. She will hug, but it's not natural for her to just come and give you a big hug.
Cammie has a totally different personality, as Valeta said. She is very self-determined little girl, but she has a lot of energy, and once you make her realize that she hasn't come and hug us, then there's no problem. She does that, and the other thing that all of the 3 girls do is they spend quite a bit of time on the iPad, and with one of their parents anyway, that's going to be some problems down the line, as it should be, as it should be. So that's but she's quite a gal, and as Valeta says, she's in charge if they let her be.
Definitely.
We have one more great-grandchild from Chanda and Brad, and he's 2-year-old Weston, who was born October the 9th, and he's really all boy. He has a mind of his own, but we have to remember that he has 3 older sisters, and he has 2 full sets of grandparents, several cousins that's over there a lot, so he gets a lot of affection, and but He's really a nice little kid. If you see him, you'll probably see him with a ball in his hand. It doesn't make any difference what kind of a ball it is. He'll have it in his hand and he will throw it. And of course, his dad, Brad, thinks that's okay. And so he can do about whatever he wants to in that arena when he's in the house or out of the house. And all of them do play with him a lot. So it's going to be interesting to watch him grow up. And hopefully we're going to be around to see him play some sports. That's our goal.
When Weston was born, his mother was having some difficulties, and it was hard for her to carry him or everything. So Karis took over, and she would go up and down the stairs with him, diaper him, do anything that needed to be done for him, and bring him back to his mom. And she was just so helpful to Chanda. And I just thought, oh my goodness, seeing her only being 9 years old, running up and down the stairs with this child. She was very careful, though, and she's been very helpful to Chanda in the racing, bringing him and doing things. And we got an email of him on his second birthday, and it is so cute. He's just dressed from head to toe, and is so. And then I got a video of him the other day, and he was playing football. He had a little football, and he was running around their kitchen island, around and around, and he would stop, bend over, pretend he was hiking the ball, but he didn't let go of that ball. And then off he went. And he was still doing it. Chandler said he was still doing this after 10 minutes running around that island. He's just all boy. It is so cute.
We have one more great-grandchild from Jeremy and Amy. She's 4-year-old Susanna. She is just a doll. She's very, very bright and a personality that is just super. When she sees us, she runs and hugs us and talks to us, and she is very bright, which is very fortunate, for her and for the parents and for us. Communication is something that she's been able to do with her friends and with adults. She doesn't care who she's talking to. 4 years old, she'll sit and talk to you about anything you want to talk about, and just a great personality. One of the things that she does that I really am glad that her parents are taking charge of course, as most kids, they have iPads. And she's very bright, and it didn't take her very long to figure out lots of things that she could do with that. So they've put her on strict restrictions with the iPad, and she can read, so she has to do some of that, and they do a lot with her too. But we were really glad to see them shut down the iPad for her, but that was okay with her. They explained to her why they had to do it and why she couldn't just spend all of her time on the iPad. She does play with dolls, but she's just as comfortable playing board games, or as we said, our Cammie, she likes to play board games too, and she's kind of built so that she could do that. And Susanna's a lot like that, and so she's in the mix, and it doesn't make any difference what it is or where it is. She takes part, but she can change from being a 4-year-old to being a much older person just by sitting down and talking with you, or trying to teach me how you use an iPad. And that's kind of humorous, but she didn't get very far with that. So one other thing that we're very proud of with all of our kids, they all go to church. And the grandkids, the great-grandkids, the parents, every Sunday they'll be in church. You know, somewhere they don't all go to the same church, but they go. And our great-grandkids know what prayer at giving thanks is, and they share in that. And right down to the 4-year-old. So we really like that, and we think that is good training, and training that a lot of kids aren't fortunate enough to have.
When the children were born, the first one, Karis, there was a little dilemma. Now what are they going to call us? Because Jim and Patty decided they wanted to be called Granddad and Grammy, which we'd always been called. Same. So now what are we going to do? Well, it wasn't very difficult, because all they did was add 2 to it. So when they would address us, I'm Grammy 2, he's Granddad 2. And actually we have 3 full sets of grandparents, Chandra and Brad's parents, Patty's parents, and then us for the great-grandparents. So they actually have 3 sets of grandparents, on both sides. Even Susanna has a set on it. Well, she has a grandmother and a great-grandmother on her side, besides us and Patty and Jim. So they have they're very, very fortunate children to have so many grandparents in their lives.
It's interesting how the Grammy and Granddad too happened. Karis, being the oldest, was just big enough to start talking, and she's pretty sharp too, and she was confused because she had Patty and Jim, which were her grandparents, and then she had Brad's parents, which were her grandparents, and we all lived within about 45 minutes or less, from them. And so one day, Karis was really confused about grandparents, and so Chanda told her, he said, well, my parents are your grandparents, and your daddy's parents are your grandparents, but my grandparents are your grandparents too. I was glad that she didn't say also, because we would have probably been called Grammy also. So that's how that happened to work out. Having great grandkids is a lot different than having grandkids, because the great grandkids have 2 full sets of grandparents that live within 45 minutes, and they have aunts and uncles that live just as close. So we have to share, and we weren't really used to that. But then as they got just a little bit older, we thought, that's a pretty good thing, because their energy level is a little more than we expected, and our energy level was a little less than we'd had. So we got used to that, and we still really participate a lot with them, but as a spectator. We go to as many things as we can, but we travel quite a bit, and so there's a lot of things that we don't get to see. But one thing that we have always appreciated with our grandkids and our great-grandkids and their parents is that they want us to everything. And we feel really, really fortunate for that. And of course they understand that we can't, go to everything because we're gone a lot and we don't have the energy to do that. And so, but we really appreciate them wanting us there. And I don't think there's ever been an event that we haven't gotten an email or a telephone call to see if we're going to be able to come. And that's a real neat thing, because there's 16 in our family, and we could stay on the road a lot if we wanted to. We love our great-grandkids.
When I think about when Bill and I got married, it was so wonderful, and we had such a good marriage, and I never anticipated that we'd have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and I just think it is absolutely wonderful. I just adore all of them. It's hard for us all to get together, but when we do, we have a wonderful time. Christmas is especially wonderful. We usually have it here at our house, and to get them all together. It may not be on December 25th, but we will eventually find a date to get together. And I just think we are so truly blessed to have such a wonderful Christian family, and none of our children are divorced, and we're so happy about that.
Yeah, when we had found out that we had the opportunity to do this, the first thing that came to my mind is my granddad, which I was very, very close to. And he died and didn't really leave anything, maybe one or two pictures, because I just didn't take pictures, back then, and they weren't that good a quality and everything. And I was thinking, I said, our grandkids and our great-grandkids are going to have something that probably hardly anyone else is ever going to have on that. And we were talking about that the other day, and I said, who's going to get the most good out of this is going to be our great-grandkids, because they're going to know us and really well, but they may or may not remember a lot of things. And then we have a very good chance of being great-great-grandparents. And so they're going to be able to look at this video, and the parents and the grandparents are going to be able to show them what it was like eons ago. And so we're excited about it, and know that we don't know for sure, how we're going to use it right now, but we know where it's going to end up. So that's the main thing.